evening, my family, TikTok family, or my Plentyi family. Today is Ask Andrea Anything. um, Sorry I started a little late. I was having an issue with TikTok, so I don't know. It wasn't taking on my laptop, so I just started a little late, but here I am. And this time, we take this time to talk to our TikTok family or people on TikTok who live in New York City and they deal with parking. So last week we talked about parking payment plans. Like how can you deal with the parking tickets, right? And in the aspect of being able to your car not getting towed, but also paying off your parking tickets. So we went through the whole process. If you have any parking tickets that are in judgment, that the New York City does provide payment plans. So so I just wanted to, that's what was a recap from last week. But this week we're going to talk about how can you dispute a ticket. So I think I always felt like now that they become so computerized that you really can't dispute a ticket, a parking ticket, but there is still a way for you to do that. So I just wanted to go through some of the questions that people ask about the first question people ask is like, how do I dispute a ticket? Right? That's the first one. So if you want to dispute a ticket, a parking ticket, you must request to have a hearing within 30 days after the ticket was issued to you. First of all, to avoid any paying any late penalties. So you can actually dispute that ticket online. You could do it by mail, or or you could use pay a dispute by the mobile app. so um, so that's a one day you could dispute a ticket. So if you have any tickets that you don't feel that you should be paid, that a ticket that you feel is not warranted, or it was a violation on the parking attendant, then what you could do is you can actually ticket that you feel is not warranted, or it was a violation on the parking attendant, then what you could do is you can actually put a request. You can actually submit a request for a hearing. Usually, I mean, to me, it's like when you dispute those tickets, normally I just kind of like put it and like have an appeal for it. That's what I usually do. So next question is, if you have tickets in judgment, can you dispute those tickets? So any tickets in judgment. So here it says, um, if they don't receive a payment for the ticket or a hearing request from you, then approximately 100 days after the ticket is issued, it will go into judgment, and you cannot have a hearing on a ticket in judgment if it is more than 1 year old. So I'm not sure exactly who have tickets in judgment for a year, for longer than a year. But if you do have that, I would suggest that you get on a payment plan. Number one, so you don't have to, it doesn't continue to go into judgment. And then number two is, I would reach out to the Department of Finance to see if there's any way that you can try to maybe get it reduced. Or so, but if you have a ticket that's less than a year old, you can actually go to hearing with that. You could try to dispute it. And then if you had any tickets, like if you previously paid or the ticket that was dismissed, you want to make sure that, if the ticket numbers on the notice matches your records of payment, just take evidence of a ticket that, because here it says, before you contact the Department of Finance, first check the ticket number on each notice against your records. So take your evidence up to any business center or send a letter, an explanation, and proof of payment to the address. And that's crazy. It's right there on Maiden Lane. So if the ticket numbers do not match, respond in a timely manner by paying or challenging any outstanding tickets indicated in the notice. So if you're saying that, this is, for example, you already paid the ticket, or the ticket was dismissed, can you dispute it? So you can dispute previously paid or dismissed tickets. So, this is what I want to know. What is the most common reasons why you can dispute a ticket? So I don't know about anybody else, but I remember when before tickets was digitized or electronically provide sent to people, you used to be able to dispute it for like the small things. Like sometimes the ticket person, the well, I don't know what you call them now, but the person who give you the ticket, the enforcement, parking enforcement, before when you used to get a ticket, they might forget to put the color of the vehicle on the ticket, or they might get the license plate information. That was when it was written out. So it was those are ways that you can be able to dispute the ticket. So now that they become computerized, all of that information is pretty much they could just scan the information from your registration and they can actually gather all that information. So those ways to be able to actually dispute those tickets not there. But here you are some common reasons for you to be able to dispute a ticket. So there's a ticket. The one thing is the death of the registrant. So if there's if a person who actually was registered to that vehicle has passed away, then you can actually dispute it. And I'm like, if someone passed away, I think that probably would be the less that I wouldn't even be thinking about a ticket. But I can understand why that's important. First thing, you take care of your family and you condolences and you take all of that stuff, and then I guess you deal with it. So it says here, the death of the registrant prior to or within 90 days of the issuing of the ticket is a total defense to any ticket. You would need to submit the death certificate as proof. So if someone actually received it, the death of the registrant happened prior to or within 90 days of them actually receiving that ticket, you can actually dispute that ticket. In those 90 days, I guess I wouldn't be thinking about that, but you can. And just say at that particular time, you get the ticket was given to you, the ticket was given to the person who passed away within that 90 days or prior to the 90 days. You don't have to dispute it at that particular moment because you still have time to dispute it. But you want to be able to handle it so you don't want to get on any extra penalties because they do pile up. So after 30 days, if you don't pay that ticket, you will receive penalties. And I'm not sure, they might be able to waive it if you tell them, okay, there was a death in the family or there's a death of the person who the vehicle was registered to, and they actually might waive the fees, and also the ticket will be waived as well. So another way that you could dispute a vehicle is if the vehicle was disabled. So if your vehicle suddenly became disabled and you were ticketed for parking it illegally, you may have a defense and you can prove the following. The car suddenly became disabled. The car was thereafter removed from the location. If the car was parked illegal and it then became disabled, the defense will not prevail. So that being said, if your car was parked in a no standing zone at that particular time, right? And then it became disabled. So if just say, for example, there's no standing between 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. And then you park your vehicle there at 7:30, but then your car becomes disabled, you still be responsible for the ticket because you illegally parked there, right? But if your car was there before the no standing was actually in effect and it became disabled, then you'll be able to dispute that ticket. And you can suddenly let them know that, hey, I was about to move my vehicle and, my car became disabled, and you have to show proof of that. And I guess the best way to prove it is, pretty much if it was towed and you had to have your vehicle towed, you could do that. But I would say if your car is disabled, I would stay with my vehicle. And back in the day, I'm not sure that you could do that now, but before you used to be able to put like a white towel or white flag outside your vehicle so they'll know that your vehicle is actually disabled. But if you can't prove that your car was disabled prior to the parking regulations, then you actually would get a ticket. But if you can prove that, then you can actually dispute that ticket. So just be mindful of that. And then another reason why how you can actually way that you could dispute a ticket if there's a broken meter, right? I didn't even know that because so it says here you may prevail on a defense of a broken parking meter if you can prove that you attempted to purchase a parking meter receipt from the nearest machine on the same block. You don't have to go across the street or within the same municipal lot. So that's good to know. So like if you're on that block and I don't know about you, but sometimes those blocks you have the meters that they spaced out, like one is on all the way on one side and on the other side, and sometimes be rushing. And now you can actually pay through the app. So like to be able to do that now, it's like you can literally pay through the app. You don't have to use the meter anymore. So if the meter is actually being, if you tried to use the meter and it's not functioning, and then you try to attempt to purchase it from a next one, and then you can actually dispute that ticket, right? And then you hear if you unsuccessfully try to make the purchase with all methods of payments accepted by machine, for example, coins, credit card. Now that has happened to me. Like I've tried my credit card, it didn't work. Now I don't know about with coins, but it was times that I tried to use my credit card and it didn't work. So I was like, and I was kind of stuck there. But now I just use the app. So I can't use that reasoning for not paying it because I just use the app. The app is easy. I don't have to worry about my credit card. I just boom, boom, and I use it and I move on. And if I have to extend it, then I extend it. But those are the reasons. Those are one of the reasons what you could do is for dispute a parking ticket. Fraudulent registration. This defense is available if you neither registered the ticket vehicle nor authorized anyone else to do so. So like if somebody, like there was fraudulent registration on the vehicle and you knew nothing about that, you could dispute that ticket. That's new to me that someone actually has done that. So, but if that's happened to you, and somebody unauthorized was able to register a vehicle and you get a ticket with register underneath your name, that's what I'm assuming. Someone registered a vehicle underneath your name without you knowing, and then you get a ticket, then you can actually dispute that, right? That's good to know. And people out here, they do be scamming. So yeah, we got to be careful. And then also temporary registration. If you had a temporary registration, you may have a defense to an expired registration ticket if you can prove both of the following. Your temporary registration was valid and displayed on the dashboard on the date of the ticket issuing. Your expired registration ticket was also properly displayed on your windshield. So I know if I've experienced that before, like I've had a temporary registration and then I got a ticket, right? And I never tried to dispute the ticket. I always kind of just accepted the ticket. But knowing that, if you have a temporary registration that was valid and displayed on the dashboard of the date of the ticketing, and then also you had the expired registration that was also properly displayed on the windshield, then you can actually dispute the parking ticket or the ticket itself, right? Because that's not really a parking ticket. That's just a ticket because of registration issues, right? So if you ever come across something like that, know that you can actually go ahead and you can dispute it. And the way that you could dispute those stickers is that you can actually go online and you can dispute by mail, or like I said, you can do it by online, or you can actually go to NYC Department of Finance, their pay or dispute a mobile app, or you can actually go in person. So I just wanted to bring up these issues. Like if you ever had any type of not only parking ticket, but a ticket that's relevant to your vehicle, and you want to know how you can dispute it, you can actually do it in multiple ways. You can go in person, you can go online, you can actually do it through the app. And if you had any of these reasons why you want to dispute the ticket, it could be like if somebody passed away and you received a parking ticket, or if your vehicle was disabled, right? And that's another way. And it also said fixed equipment. If your evidence can establish that the equipment violation was corrected within 24 hours of its discovery, the ticket may be dismissed. You may produce a repair or purchase receipt as proof. So just say if your vehicle was disabled and it was actually parked in an illegally parked, but you parked it before it became an illegal park, you can dispute that ticket. And when you dispute that ticket, you will show that you fixed it. So you have to show proof that you actually took it to a mechanic and the mechanic fixed your vehicle. And if you have proof of that, you can show that proof when you want to dispute that ticket. So if you are parked somewhere and it's the parking time is, just say it's no standard from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and you park your vehicle from 6:30 and then at 7 o'clock your car became disabled, you can fight that ticket and you can actually use if you went to a mechanic showing that a receipt that you have, you can actually dispute those tickets. Right. So here is what are the required elements in the tickets? Right? Here. So I think this is very helpful because a lot of times people want to know what exactly is supposed to be in the park, like what is supposed to show in the parking ticket. But now that everything is so computerized, how can we not have that information in there? So the required elements that need to be in there. So if a ticket is defective, it's certain requirements that are missing. So like the plate number has to be there, the plate type, the make, the model, the body type, the state of the registration, the citation, the violation charge, and then also the date and time of when the ticket was issued. But right now we know that from my experiences that, okay, they use digitize those tickets. So a lot of that information is already there, but you still have a right to look at to make sure everything there is valid. And that's one of the required elements that they have to put in those tickets to actually issue the ticket. Right. And then also first observation time for the time that the violation, like if it was overtime parking or there was any type of violation, that information has to be in there as well. So just wanted to put there. And there's also like the parking sign restrictions. So they have to put in there what type of violations there was in there. So you want to make sure that you protect yourself and make sure those things are in there. So here we talked about and also when it comes to a parking meter. So if the meter zone is in effect for certain times, those times must be accurately indicated on the ticket. So if you get a violation for a parking meter, they have to put in there, okay, when it actually, so they say you pass the parking meter time, it has to be in for it has to show exactly the accurate time of when the ticket was issued. And if the violation is for overtime parking, the ticket must indicate the time first observed. So these are good to know. So if you get in these tickets, you want to look for this information because this way you can actually dispute the ticket. If the violation is for an expired meter, the ticket must indicate the meter number. The meter number is not required if the violation was for a felon to display the receipt. So you got it. If you are still using the meter machines, we all know that you got to make sure those tickets are shown, right? And I think a lot of times we think, oh, we put the ticket in there, it was flipped over, because sometimes you put the ticket in there, you're rushing out, you close the door, and then your ticket flip over, and then they can't see the ticket, right? So you want to make sure that it's actually showing. And I always put it in the parking side, like the driver's side, so they can actually see the ticket. And I might be wrong, so somebody please correct me if I'm wrong. But you put it there so they can see the ticket, and that is actually valid. All right, because if not, what they'll do is they'll give you a ticket saying that they couldn't see the ticket. And then what you have to do is you got to go dispute it. So why dispute something? Why have to put time and energy in something when you could just avoid it by making sure that the ticket is showing? And a lot of times, people think, oh, I have to flip it over. They won't check. No, just make sure that it's actually showing. if you get a ticket for a missing plates or improper display of plates, for a vehicle registered in New York, two plates must be displayed. One of them in the front of the vehicle and one in the rear. Plates cannot be displayed on the dashboard. Plates cannot be covered with a plastic or glass. No part of the plate can be covered. So you want to make sure that's not the case. So the ticket must state which plate was missing. It has to be on the ticket, and the ticket must know why the plate display was improper. For example, front plate on dash. It has to give information about that. And then also inspection. I don't know about people, but inspection tickets, whoo, child, you gotta get those inspections done, okay? Because they will come around and they will ticket you. So vehicles with New York plates must properly display a current and valid inspection sticker. So the box of missing or expired must be checked on the ticket. So if you get a ticket, you'll see the ticket. It'll tell you if this if it's for inspection expired. So in that ticket with the orange envelope that we all know about, the box for missing or expired must be checked on the ticket. If the ticket is for an expired inspection, the expiration date must be noted. If the violation was for an improper sticker display, the ticket must indicate why it was improper. So these are some of the things you want to think about when you actually get in the ticket. And another one that I thought was really good is registration stickers and display violations. And we all know that now the Department of Motor Vehicle, I think they're becoming more modern, and they're actually letting you know ahead of time, like, hey, your registration is coming up. Hey, you better go ahead and, get it and renew your registration. So we know these things are happening. So, but still in all, you want to make sure that if you do get a ticket for registration not being expired or it's not displayed properly. So these are some of the things that they look for. Stickers, and this is just to let you know ahead of time. Stickers must be current, valid, and properly displayed at all times. Proper display means affixed to the windshield next to the inspection sticker, which, is right by each other. So when they come around, they're going to check your inspection sticker and they're going to check your registration. Displaying a ticket on the dashboard is not proper. You can get a ticket for that. Having a sticker somewhat inside the car or off other than affixed to the windshield is not proper. Temporary registration stickers must be placed on the dashboard with the old sticker remaining affixed to the windshield. And so if you do get a ticket, the ticket must say, if you get a violation ticket, the ticket must indicate whether the registration was either missing or expired. If for expired registration, the expiration date must be noted on the ticket. So remember that if you ever come across that and you're in between registrations, make sure that the temporary registration sticker, because sometimes we don't hit that mark, like when they give us a time that we can register and then we get the new registration sticker before the old one expires. Sometimes we don't get there, right? So now we know that online you can actually go to the Department of Motor Vehicle and you can actually get your registration sticker online and then print it out at home if you have a printer at home. And then you can actually put the temporary registration sticker there. And then you just keep the old registration sticker there so they know that, okay, yes, this person, they have an old one and they have a new one. They're just waiting for the new registration sticker to come into play. So, and then also if you get a fire hydrant violations, I know a lot of people get fire hydrant violations, and I know that's been me. So you cannot park within 15 minutes of a fire hydrant. What is 15 minutes in a fire hydrant? I use my feet to measure it, and I don't know. So you cannot park within 15 feet of a fire hydrant. There is an exception for passenger plated vehicles only if the driver is behind the wheel of the car during daylight hours and standing is not otherwise prohibited. So that means, like, for example, you're parked by a fire hydrant, but the fire hydrant is within the space that there's no standing. you cannot park your vehicle there. You can't park it there because you're not even supposed to be in the vehicle. There's no standing, right? So that is the case. So, however, you must move the vehicle immediately if you hear the approach of a fire emergency vehicle or you are ordered to move by law enforcement. So, if you are parking your car there and there's no sign that says no standing, you could park by the fire hydrant. But if you hear the fire truck come in, they need to use the fire hydrant, then you got to move your car. Okay? And if the cops tell you that you got to move your car, you move your car. Right? Simple. Very simple. So, if you do get a ticket for fire hydrant violation, the ticket must show how far in feet the vehicle was parked from the hydrant. So I thought that was very useful because I need to know these things, right? So here, parking sign restrictions, right? Just want to add an FAQs for you. So I'm not sure who's on the line, but do you know one thing we want to know when they have a parking, when it says no standing or no parking, is waiting allowed? Can you actually wait in your vehicle if it's a no standing and there's a no parking? Is it waiting allowed? Now, according to this FAQ, it's not allowed. You cannot do it, right? So, you can't stop, you can't stand, and you can't park. If excuse me, I'm saying in the no parking, no standing, and no stopping is waiting allowed. It says no. Okay. Can I load or unload a package or merchandise at the curbside at a no parking in a no parking zone? Yes, you can. So if it's no parking zone and you got to load your stuff, you got bags and all this type of stuff, you're trying to get things in and out and everything, you can do that. But if it's in a no standing, you cannot. You cannot unload. You cannot load any merchandise on the curbside. And a lot of times we say, sometimes, the traffic enforcement, they don't give us a hard time. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But, if you are unloading and loading something in a no stand, because we all know that no standing is that red sign with the white light, with the white writing. The white fonts with the red sign. If you see that sign, beware. And you do not stand there. You move your vehicle if you can, because you can get ticketed and you can get towed. And we don't want to get ticketed and we don't want to get towed because that's a whole bunch of money. The ticket is going to cost you about $65 plus, and then towing your car is going to cost you $100 and something. That's going to be like $200. So if you can, just go to an area where the snow standing is not in effect and unload your stuff, right? Another question, can I stop to drop off or pick up a passenger? So I guess this is for all the people, and I guess it doesn't matter if you're Uber or if you're Lyft. I mean, anybody. Can you stop to drop off or pick up a passenger? And in a no stopping zone, parking zone, no, you cannot, right? But in a no standing, you can, and in no parking, you can. But no stopping, you can't. I don't think I ever seen a sign that said no stopping. That's new to me, but okay, I guess that exists. So just be wary of that. Is waiting allowed when at a no parking, no standing, no stopping parking zone? No, it's not. Can you stop to load or unload a package or merchandise at curbside for in the no parking zone? Yes, you can. A no standing, you cannot. No stopping, you cannot. So I just be careful with that because, like I said, sometimes you can have an enforcement officer who's not going to probably give you a hard time, but if they wanted to, they can, right? So here, just wanted to add that there is a 5-minute grace period for parking meters and restrictive hour zones. So I know for me, sometimes when there's no standing or there's alternate side parking, they give you 5 minutes to move your vehicle. And I'm like running out the house with one shoe on, one shoe off, and, pajamas and, a coat on. And just because I don't want to get a ticket. I don't want to get a ticket. So I'm willing to take that chance and take down that embarrassment. So, and then it says signs are effective from the pole where the sign is affixed And I know sometimes in New York, the arrows are going this way. You got two signs on one pole and you're not sure which one it is. So normally what you see is the sign. If you see the sign and the arrows going backwards, you know that from that where the actual pole and the sign is at, going backwards, those are the rules that are in place. So there's no parking from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. You see where the actual parking zone starts, and then it will show you that anything after that pole is where you cannot park from that time. All right. Um, where a car is straddling the pole containing a sign with one directional arrow, that car will be deemed to be in the restricted zone of that sign. If any part of the car is in the restricted zone, creates the violation. So I know a lot of times we are struggling for parking, and sometimes we say, well, we're not really over the line and we're kind of really over here. So they're saying if it's straddling, like it's kind of like over here on the side, and you over that line, they can ticket you and they can give you a violation because you violated the parking restrictions, right? So be careful of that, because I know sometimes I've done it. And by the grace of God, I will say that I didn't get ticketed, but sometimes we do, right? Sometimes, so just be careful of that. So also, where there are two signs posted affecting the same area but with conflicting restrictions, follow the less restrictive sign, and then you also you can report it to 311, right? So like, for example, you got parking that says no parking Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8:30 to 10 a.m., right? But then there's another sign that says no parking on Monday from 8:30 to 10 a.m. Which one would you go with? It says the less restrictive sign. So I would say the less restrictive sign is that one, Monday, you can only park from 8:30 to 10 a.m. So you could do that. But if you came across that, because a lot of times people do that, sometimes they even forget, like they'll change the parking rule for that area and you don't even know that they changed it. Sometimes you don't know. And so you could call 311 and get more information about it. But if you see two signs there and they're conflicting and you're like, well, which one am I supposed to do? Am I not supposed to park? Am I supposed to park? Like it says, you take the most less restrictive, the one that doesn't require the most rules, right? And you follow that one, and then you contact 311. We got to help each other out. So if you come across it, you see two signs there, it's not making sense, just call 311 and let them know so you can help out your fellow New York driver to help us deal with these parking issues. So just throwing that out there. So that really much is what I wanted to just talk to you about today. Ask if anybody has any questions. Please ask. Please ask. And the one thing I would say, what you want to do is when you are going for a hearing, just say you want to, I just pointed out all the different type of tickets that you can possibly get when it comes to the vehicle. And it's probably more, but this is what I'm showing you right now. And you say, okay, I want to go to a hearing. I want to fight this ticket, right? Here, it gives you information on how to prepare for your hearing. So it says preparation and presentation are the key to a successful hearing. I think that's the key to even a lot of things in life, preparation and presentation. Be thorough and leave nothing to chance. Review the following tips before arguing your case. Read the section of law where you were cited for. Make sure you do that. It's easy now. You can do on ChatGPT, put it in and give you a whole thing. It might even give you the preparation and presentation that you need for the hearing. So remember that. If you're disputing a red light, bus lane, or speeding camera violation, visit the website printed on the ticket and view the evidence against you. Because most likely they got your car running through the red light or the speeding camera. But that doesn't mean that it's true, right? It could be an issue with them. But I know that a lot of time when I got that ticket, it was my car going right through that red light. But there are times that they are wrong, right? And this is where you go and there might be a reason why that you was running through that red light. There might have been an emergency. There might have been something that was going on that you feel that you want to go to a hearing and ask that they dismiss it, right? So here, read the entire ticket and make sure that all required elements are correctly printed. If any of those elements are missing, illegible, or incorrect, include this in your statement to the judge. That could be a winner for you. That way that you can actually have that ticket dismissed, okay? And a lot of times we don't want to get tickets for running red lights or even speeding tickets because it makes our insurance go up. We don't want points on our insurance. I know I don't, because insurance is already expensive. And anyway, but I love my car. And then said, be very detailed in your statement and anticipate what questions the judge might have for you. I don't know how we anticipate that, but I guess if it was you and you was a judge, what would they ask? They might ask you like, why was you speeding? Why did you go through the red light? What was your reason for it? That might be the case. So you want to come up with an answer of why you ran that red light, why you was parked there, why maybe your car was broke down, you had an emergency with your family, whatever it is. You want to make sure that you anticipate what would a person ask. Because I would ask, if you was running through a red light at 95 miles an hour, I'd be like, why was you speeding through a red light? And you got to pretty much come up with a detailed question, right? So it said, include detailed information about distances, times, and special circumstances. That's what I'm saying. So maybe it was a circumstance, the reason why that happened. So if you're going for a hearing, make sure you have that information. And write your statement out on a separate sheet or paper so you can be thorough. The space given on the website might not be enough for you to be fully descriptive. You can then attach a statement as evidence. So yes. So here, it even tells you what evidence that you want to bring to the table when you're going for a hearing. And this is an online hearing. This ain't even in person. It's an online hearing. So here's some of the tips. Take pictures of the entire side of the street you were parked on from end to end, right? So it's like now you're like painting this story, right? You painting this story, you giving them the vision of exactly where you was parked at, right? So like if you're fighting this ticket, it's a parking ticket, you want to dispute it, you're going to hearing, this is what you want to do. You want to say, okay, I was parked on Franklin Avenue, right? Franklin Avenue between St. James and what's the next block? Lafayette, right? And no, that's the wrong block. No. Franklin, that can't be. St. James and Franklin runs the same way. But anyway, you was parked on Franklin Avenue, okay? Between Atlantic Avenue and Dean or Pacific. One of them. Anyway, you take pictures of the entire side of the street you were parked on from end to end, right? Take pictures front and back of all the parking signs on the side of the street you were parked on. And make sure that your pictures show the street signs to confirm where you were parked at. And make sure the pictures show the proper property address where you were parked. Okay? And then use maps and satellite imagery such as Google Maps to corroborate your photos. So this is you painting the picture. And to be honest, I never did this. I thought if I just tell them, give them a statement of why I did it. I never went to these levels to fight a ticket, to dispute a ticket. But I get it. If the judge is not there, the judge doesn't know, you tell them this is happening, or you're saying that you feel like this is violation, it's something to do with either the fire hydrant or the tick, or there was an issue with the parking signs, whatever it is. You're painting this, you're actually showing them, right? They're seeing it. They can envision everything. They're like at the scene of actually what happened, right? So and then label your photos and documents so that you can reference them in the defense statement. So you say Exhibit 1. Because literally, like you're going to a hearing. It's a hearing for your parking ticket. But say Exhibit 1, my car was parked here at this particular time, from this particular time, right? That's what you want to do. You want to give the judge as much information as possible if you want to fight this ticket. You want to dispute this ticket. And they're not there. They're not at the scene. So you got to think they have so many tickets that they have to dispute. right? They're going to just move on and on. So you want to put as much information as possible. So make sure your photos clearly show what you're trying to argue. Don't take photos that are deceptive or only tell part of your story. Don't lie. That's what it's trying to say. Do not lie. Okay? Don't lie. Your photos should be date and time stamped. Remember, the ticket issuer statement is sworn to and will be given great weight. As such, if you can provide a sworn statement, it will also carry more weight before a judge. So if there was, if you have a sworn statement, you could bring that, that'd be great. If not, you just go with what you have. And do not send your originals in the mail. Only provide copies and maintain your evidence in case you have to appeal and present them again, because we know things get lost. The post office, it didn't get to the office where it's supposed to be at, then they ask you to resend the information, and then you might want to go again and you don't have no copies. So make sure you keep copies. Keep copies. And now the way that we have technology is really not that hard. I would say take pictures in your phone, and then you could do it that way. A lot of people don't have scanners and stuff like that, but if you want to put anything like that, take pictures of it, save it somewhere so you can always use it again, right? And consider keeping a tape measure in your glove box for measuring purposes. That's new to me. I never knew anything about that. But consider keeping a tape measure in your glove box for measuring purposes. Not sure why to do that, but it says it here. Yeah. And then it says here, defenses that will not be upheld. Pretty much which ones they're not going to even consider. This is what it's trying to tell you. So ignorance of the law. So you cannot use the fact you did not know that the law is not a defense to a parking ticket. You cannot use that. You can't say, well, I didn't know. They don't want to hear that. All right. So you can't use that. The fact that you've been parking there for years without ever being ticketed is not a defense. That is not a defense. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Come on now. I know I've been parked a couple places for years and never got a ticket. I couldn't go into the judge and tell him, well, I never got ticketed before. You just can't do that. You was just lucky, right? That's really much what it was. And then also ignorance of the law. The fact that you were the only one ticketed, even though other was parked there similarly, is not a defense. Come on now, we not 2 years old, we not 5 years old, right? You can't say, well, why did you didn't punish them, but you punished me, but you still was in violation of the parking rules. So it don't matter. Okay, sign violations. The fact that you did not see a poster sign is not a defense unless the sign was illegible. So if you say, well, I'd seen the sign, but, it was all torn and distorted and, it was all, the words wasn't there. So I didn't really know what it said. And you take a picture of it and you bring it in, right? But you can't say that you didn't see the post. I didn't see it there. That's not a defense, right? For a parking ticket if you're trying to dispute it. The fact you did not see a poster sign on the block because it was too far away is not a defense. Please don't use that. New York actually has New York City street sweepers. You can go on New York City street sweepers. It's an app. You can go in there, type in the address of where you want to park your vehicle, and they'll let you know what the alternate side parking is. They'll let you know what the parking rules for that day is. So you can't use that as an excuse, right? And sometimes it is too far because we're running late. We don't have time to wait around. We try to rush, right? So I get it, but you can't use that as a defense. The fact that you misunderstood the signs is not a defense, which is unfortunate because we do live in a city where you have people who comes from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, and sometimes, they don't speak English and they can't read the sign, right? But or it's possible, or they misunderstood. Sometimes we do misunderstand the question. I misunderstood a couple of times, and I paid for that. So the point that I don't misunderstand anymore. Okay. Also, you can't use the reason for disputing a ticket. The fact you were sitting behind the wheel with the car running and waiting for a friend and a no standing on no parking or no stopping zone is not a defense. So if you're in a no standing zone, which I've done, and they usually don't ticket you, but they can if they want to. That's the point. They can ticket you. That doesn't mean that sometimes they don't ticket you. If you're sitting in a no standing zone because you're just waiting for the time to pass so you can get out your car, they don't ticket you, but they can ticket you. So remember that. So if you get ticketed and you say, well, and you try to go to a hearing and dispute the ticket, you're like, well, I was sitting in my car. They're like, yeah, but there's no standing, which means you can't sit in your car in a no standing zone. You have to move your car. Another defense is double parking. You can't use a defense that the fact that you were double parked for only a brief period, because I know a lot of times we do double parking with alternate side parking, right? So we just park our car on the other side, right, until alternate side parking, and then we think, oh, well, I was just parked there for a little while, but they just actually let us do that. But you're not really supposed to double park, right? So the fact that you would double park for only a brief period is not a defense. The fact that it is difficult to find parking during street cleaning times is not a defense. That is the problem that I have. And I let me tell you something. I used to double park. I don't double park anymore. Because when I come out my apartment and come out of my building and somebody's double parked and I can't get out to get where I'm going, I'm like so upset because now I'm going to be late for work, right? And then they're not even in the car. Like they literally left their car and they went on in their home to get to their meeting, right? And now you're trying to get out to get to your job and you can't get out because they double park and they blocked you in. So I do not like the double parking, not for a long period of time, right? Like I get if you're getting out, you're getting in, you got to take care of something, but to like double park for a whole hour and a half and then leave your car there and put a little note like call me to let me know, I gotta go to work. So anyway, if you get a ticket for double parking, you cannot say the fact that it's difficult to find parking during street cleaning times. You cannot use as a defense. Double parking, another one you can't use. The fact that the cleaning truck never came to clean the streets that day is not a defense. Ooh, I never thought of that. So they pretty much saying like, yeah, just because we didn't come clean the street don't mean you're not supposed to move your car. Don't worry about what we're not doing. You focus on what you're supposed to be doing, right? That's what it's saying. Okay, if you get a ticket for the crosswalks, I mean, because I know the crosswalks is kind of, it'd be late at night sometimes and you can't find nowhere to park and you right at that crosswalk and you're like, it's not that bad. And usually they don't get a ticket for crosswalks, but sometimes you can. And that's the thing that's kind of mind-boggling because you're like, I did it for 10 years, never got a ticket for the crosswalk violation, and then boom, one day you get a ticket, right? So you can't use it if you do get a crosswalk ticket, you cannot dispute it and say the fact that you were not blocking the pedestrian ramp portion of the crosswalk. So if you say, well, I wasn't violating the ramp, because we know what the ramp is, that little like slanted way when people, coming on the curb. Like you say, well, I didn't block that, so I'm not, I didn't really violate it. You can't use that as a defense. The fact that only a small part of your car was on the, because that's, sometimes it's only a small part of your car was on the crosswalk line is not a defense. So no part of your car can be on any part of the crosswalk lines. Let me repeat that. No part, not even the fender, not even a little tip of the license plate that comes out on the bumper of your car, the front part, right? I don't know, is that the front fender, the bumper? But the front part of the car. It cannot be on a part of the crosswalk line. They can ticket you. So be mindful of that, okay? Okay, so question is, the next one, when will you receive a decision? So just say you go through the whole process. I told you about what you should look for and your tickets that you have, like certain elements that need to be there, what evidence that you need to give, that you need to send if you want to dispute the tickets, even showed you how to dispute the ticket, right? So when will you receive a decision? An in-person hearing, which they still do. I just said they didn't do it, but they do it. you receive an administrative judge hearing, this judge decision right away. So if you go in person and you provide all your evidence and take off of work and do all of that, you can get a decision right away, which I think is fair because I mean, I took off of work to come in here to fight a ticket. So yeah, you should give me a decision. Online hearing or hearing by mail, an administrative law judge decision will be emailed to the email address you supply. If you're asked to send additional evidence, follow the instructions on the hereby mail page. I can actually, the links is here. You can go to like nyc.gov and they have a link for hearing by mail, and you can go in there and see exactly where you have to follow the instructions. Or we could say that for another time and talk about it next Wednesday. So if you disputed a violation and have not received a decision within 3 weeks of requesting a hearing by mail or an online hearing, please contact the Department of Finance to check whether a decision has been made. Because you want to make sure you fight that, right? Because if you get a ticket, you can actually, like we talked about, if you get a ticket and you want to dispute it, you should be disputing that ticket within 30 days of you receiving that ticket. Because if not, they're going to tack on penalties. So now you're going to have all these extra penalties on top of it. So as soon as you get that ticket, you realize it's a violation, what you do, you dispute it either in person, online, or by mail. And then if you don't hear anything within that time, you want to make sure you contact them because you don't want to get any more penalties. If they decided, well, we're not going to, sorry. Like I said, I was having problems earlier. If they're not going to actually waive it, you want to make sure you pay it, right? And how can you appeal a hearing decision? So if administrative law judge finds you guilty at a parking ticket hearing, you have a right to appeal it. So you can request an appeal. You must file an application by mail. I don't know why we're doing by mail, but by mail within 30 days of the hearing decision. While waiting for your appeal decision, an interest may be added, which means more money on that ticket. Towing and other enforcement action may also be taken. Dang. And then you can avoid this by paying a total amount due before requesting the appeal. So just be mindful of that. If you do appeal it, they can add on extra penalties, which they call as interest. And if it's in judgment, well, because you can have a ticket that's in judgment, but it can't be in judgment for more than 1 year for you to dispute it. So that means if you got tickets in judgment and you're disputing it and it's over $350, they can tow your vehicle or they can boot it. If emergency prevents you from attending a scheduled appeal and you cannot notify the Department of Finance in writing, you must notify the appeals board by calling 212-361-5990. If you do not notify them, you will lose your appeal appointment and you will not be able to reschedule. You hear that one more time. If you do not notify them, you will lose your appeal appointment and you will not be able to reschedule. So be mindful of that. Also, if you have any questions, call 311. 311 is like, they got all the answers. So you can call them and they can help you. So the appeal determination, and then we're out of here after this. The appeals determination, the appeals board will make one of the following decisions. They will uphold the original hearing decision, which means you got to pay the ticket. Modify the original hearing decision. Maybe they'll decrease it or, take a discount off of it. Reverse the original hearing, which means dismiss it. Like you don't have to work, like you don't have to pay the ticket. And return the case for a completely new hearing. I'm like, who wants to go through all of that? But I guess it's better the second time around. Second time around. It's possible. So and then decide that, or they can decide that there were no issues on which to base your appeal. Like you had no reason to really do that. So the appeal board determination would be mailed to you. If an appeal results in a reduction of the fine or dismissal of the violation, the Department of Finance will automatically mail the refunded amount within 30 days of the person who requested the appeal. That being said, if say your ticket that you gave it, you disputed it, the outcome, you didn't like it, you want to appeal it, pay the ticket, right? Which I know is so hard to do. But you pay the ticket, $65, $100, depending on the violation, and then you put in an appeal for it. You put the appeal in, and if they, they reverse it, you get your money back, right? So that's it. And within 30 days of the appeal time, right? You have the right to file an Article 78 proceeding to challenge the original hearing's decision or appeals determination by visiting the clerk of Supreme Court of New York at 60 Central Street, rooms 116, New York, New York. That's a lot. So you could go and you could visit down there, and then you could fight that too. But it depends on how much money it is. I mean, listen, if it's a lot of money, and like sometimes people have done, like we talked about, all the different things that can happen, all the reasons why you can dispute it. And if you're a person that somebody actually fraudulently use your information to register a vehicle, and they're ticketing it, and they're getting like hundreds and $1,000s a ticket, yes, I can see you going through this process to make sure that you get a decision, that you reverse the decisions, right? So anyway, and so I just wanted to add that. And also parking permit for people with disabilities. That's a whole nother story that we could talk about another time, but they do have those things in place. So if you hold a New York City parking permit, also known as a special parking identification, and you receive a parking summons, you can mail your dispute to the parking violation advocacy. And I didn't know that. It's at 66 John Street. So if you know anybody who has a parking permit, like has a parking permit for with a disability, that they can actually dispute it. In your dispute, write the permit number on the original summons and attach a copy of the front and back of the permit. You may also submit supporting evidence. So there's also a parking ticket broker. The Department of Finance recognizes that members of the public have the right to choose whether to represent themselves or rely on the service of a broker. While we will not endorse or recommend a particular broker, it's our obligation to inform that public when brokers have been found guilty or unethical conduct. It is our obligation to inform the public when brokers have been found guilty of unethical conduct in the performance of their duty. So they actually have, here they have a listing of parking ticket brokers that were actually like in violation. There's two of them here. I don't know, it's called Parking Ticket Busters and Parking Expert. They actually, suspension expired. So I gotta look into that because I've not heard of that. And that's an interesting one on its own. So anyway, family, we are at the end of Ask Andrea Anything. We actually over about 1 minute. So we went over how do you dispute a parking ticket, or how do you dispute a ticket. We went through, you could dispute it online, you could dispute it in person, and you could do it over email. You could do it in mail. We also talked about what are the different reasons that you can dispute it. You could dispute it if somebody passed away, the registrant who the car was registered with was passed away. There was a maybe your car was disabled before the parking went into effect. The meter was broken. There's a bunch of reasons that we went over. So I'm not going to rehash it, but maybe we'll go over this section again. So anyway, thank you, family, for attending Ask Andrea Anything, and take care. Have a good night. I don't know. It's coming up with this weird thing telling me I have to do some audio thing. But if you have any questions, please hit it up in the DM. Ask us questions about anything related to parking, especially if you live in New York. We here every Wednesday at 7 p.m. and we're constantly just trying to educate our people because we know parking is crazy, tickets is crazy, insurance is crazy, but people who love to drive their vehicles. So we're trying to figure out a way that we can move through this whole journey together so we can help each other, so we don't have to be like thousands and thousands of dollars in tickets and getting towed and booted and all this other stuff. We're trying to see if there's ways that we can help you here. So anyway, have a blessed night, everyone. Take care. Later.